On today's episode of Phinside The NFL, we've been going over ESPN's rankings leading up to the season, and well, they kind of contradicted themselves with the quarterback rankings, as Tua was labeled a nightmare matchup by one NFL evaluator, only to be snubbed outside of the top 10 in their rankings. Also, we will discuss the contract situations with Tua and Tyreek. We got a lot to discuss on today's episode. Please do me the favor, smash the like button, subscribe if you're new, and as always, let's get into this.
Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score! Deep upfield on the near side, that open. Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. It's not over the touchdown again!
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go! What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and you know what it is. We are back here for another one. Appreciate all of you for tuning in on this Monday as we start off your week. The rookies report this week finally. So football, you smell that? It is in the air, baby. So thank all y'all for coming through tonight. Do me the favor, smash that like button, subscribe if you are new. I got a couple things to talk about before we get into everything, but before we even get into those things, I want to shout out Pro Special, Robert Thomason, Tyson C, Stetson O, Aladino Mass, B Rob, Brian Walters, SoFlo Soul, Charles Hilton, Russell Swan, Chuck Fins Up, Joseph Latham, Jason Stamps, Tom Santinello, Flipper 13, Nick Queck, Tori Dixon, Darth Logan 99. Who else we got here? Ryan AP, Cosmic Raccoon. Hope you're doing well. The Wayne D Experience. What's good, Wayne? Hope you well too. Samuel Rosa, Finn Fella. I want to thank all of you for taking some time out already. Over 100 of you in the room. Like I said, do me the favor, smash the like button. FMP, what's going on? LPAD, how is everyone doing this evening as we start our week off? Tomorrow, got a really good one for you. What's up, Ken? How you doing? Got a really good one for you tomorrow. It'll be dropping in the morning. M-Cord, how you doing? I sat down and spoke with Tyler Dunn of Go Long TD. If you remember Tyler Dunn in some of his past work, he had that Tua Time series a couple years ago, and we had him on regarding that, the Tua Time series. He also was the one who wrote that Lynn Bowden Jr. article a couple years ago as well. Remember the Lynn Bowden one that talked about how like the Raiders had him on speakerphone and he heard what they really thought about him, that crazy one. Tyler Dunn is also the man who wrote the article that exposed the Sean McDermott and whole infamous Al-Qaeda pep talk that he gave his family, that he gave his team before games. So Tyler Dunn has broken a lot of stories. Remember over the Tua Time one, he caught a lot of flack because Raheem Mostert took a slight at Garoppolo, and then Raheem Mostert came out and denied it and blah, 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 blah. So he wrote an article, it dropped last week, on David Long Jr. If you have not read this article, it's going to take you about a half hour to read the article, 20 minutes, half hour to read the article. It's like 10,000 words. If you haven't read that article, go look it up. It's called David Long Jr. And the Beast Within. Guys, David Long Jr., we're going to get into it tomorrow if you haven't read it. But we're talking about pain and trauma and death turned him into the leader of the Miami Dolphins defense, because what's revealed in that article is he's going to be wearing the green dot this year. He is going to be calling the plays. He is going to be leading that defense. But, man, we're talking about, he had a cousin kill his other cousin, you know what I mean, in cold blood. His brother was set up and murdered in cold blood. 3 cousins die in a short span of each other. His father, a former boxer who boxed Deontay Wilder, is in jail on cocaine trafficking charges. His aunt who helped raise him, she passed away while he was graduating. Like, there is just a crazy backstory to David Long Jr. and where he is as a human being. And if you have not read that article, I implore you to read that article. And tomorrow I'll have Tyler. We talk about David Long. We talk about a ton about Tua, because remember, he did the whole article on Tua and Tua time. We talk about Tua's contract. We cover a lot of Dolphin stuff. There's some interesting stuff in the article about Vic Fangio and how the defensive players are relieved to be working with Anthony Weaver, and the fact that Vic Fangio is gone. We talk about that. We talk about a lot, so you'll want to make sure, check it out. I'll be dropping that tomorrow morning around 9 a.m. for all of you guys, all right? So you make sure. Robert Thomason, where can I find the article? Honestly, Google David Long Jr. and the Beast Within. I'll show you what right now. Hold on. All right, because it's on Go Long. All right, so I'll show you what the article looks like right here. All right, I'll just flash it because I actually don't bring it up on screen during the interview because I already did the interview. So it's this article right here. David Long Jr. and the Beast Within. All right, it's on golongtd.com. All right, go check this out. It's a fantastic article. It's 10,000 words. So you got to put some time aside. You know what I mean? But worth your time. All right, so I'm going to have him on tomorrow. We'll discuss the article in depth. We'll discuss Tua, who he did an article on a couple years ago. We got a lot we go over. It's a great discussion. Always a good time having Tyler on. So make sure you go check out his article, support his work. Does fantastic work. Remember, the whole Sean McDermott thing came from him with the Al-Qaeda stuff. So he does good stuff, all right? Now, a couple things I want to talk about. Number one, if you weren't on X this weekend, basically, Omar Kelly was talking to people about the 2020 draft. And if you remember the 2020 draft, who did I want at quarterback? I wanted who? I wanted Tua Tagovailoa. Oh, I wanted Burrow too, but Burrow I knew was gone. But I wanted Tua Tagovailoa, and if we didn't get Tua, who did I want? Who do y'all remember in the chat? Put it in the chat. Remember, in the 2020 draft, if we weren't going to draft Tua at 5, who did I want us to wait and draft at 18 or 26? Put it in the chat. Let me know that you know who I'm talking about. All right, put it in the chat. Let me see it in the chat. Yes, sir. Jordan Love. And the discussion, yep. Jordan Love, yep. And the discussion on Twitter was Omar Kelly basically confirmed that Flores was not sold on Tua. He wanted to draft an offensive tackle at 5, not Andrew Thomas. And he wanted to wait and draft Jordan Love. Listen, I would have won either way, so that's beautiful. But the thing is, what they did to Tua in terms of stunting his growth and development, how they treated him, et cetera, you wouldn't see the Jordan Love you see right now. He would be a totally different player. Just like Herbert would be a totally different player in Miami. You would not have the same exact player. This reclamation project that McDaniel has done with Tua, Tua had a lot more foundationally intact starting points to his game than Jordan Love did at the time. Jordan Love had the tools, right? But Jordan Love, even back then, you could find the receipts in 2019. What would I say? He needs 2 years. That's exactly what I would come up here and say. After I was done arguing with Dolphin fans who didn't know what the hell they were talking about, all right? That would be the follow-up thing, is I would say he needs 2 years. There's just no doubt about it. And we wouldn't have got the 2 years here. He would have been forced to start much earlier. Much earlier. And, it wouldn't have been good for his development. I think Love would have busted out. A lot of people didn't want to take him because, remember, he threw, because of his, a touchdown to interception ratio in his last year of a college. And I'd come up here and defend him and be like, the guy has 10 new starters on offense. But remember, he threw 20 touchdowns to 17 picks. So what would I come up here and tell people? Okay, well, if you're not drafting that, then you're not drafting Marino. Because Marino in his last year had 17 touchdowns to 22 interceptions. That was my whole argument. So, listen, Love, though, when you watch the tape back at Utah, the traits were there. Especially when you watch that 2018 film, when he threw for 32 touchdowns and only 6 picks, he was lights out. When he had majority of it, he was with seniors and juniors. Then the problem was the next year in 2019, he had 10 new starters on offense, including a whole new offensive line. And if anything, Miami Dolphin fans who have become hardcore since 2020 and were casual before, if anything, y'all people have learned that the offensive line, offense goes as far as the offensive line takes you, right? So that was the discussion on Twitter, and it wasn't Andrew Thomas, the offensive tackle, we were going to take, right? So, I bet you it was going to be, I guarantee you they wanted to draft. I'm telling you, I bet you they wanted to draft Mekhi Becton. I almost guarantee you that's who it was. Because it wasn't Andrew Thomas that they wanted to draft. I think it was Mekhi Becton. Wouldn't have been my boy Wirfs. I think it was going to be Mekhi Becton. Now, other thing I want to talk about. Copa America. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate you. Copa America. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right. First of all, and I ain't talking about Messi's ankle. That thing is absolutely huge. But if you guys haven't seen it yet, look at what those fans did to our stadium. Look at this. Look at the disaster. Look at this. People are animals. People are absolute animals for what they did to our... the Colombian national fans and the Argentina national fans, absolute animals for what you did to Hard Rock. First of all, I don't know if you guys have seen the videos, but you had these people bum rushing the stadium, basically knocking down barriers. Kids were getting trampled. There's videos of kids off to the side crying. People were getting trampled and stomped, and you had security trying to maintain it, trying to tackle people, but what are you going to do? Absolute. Now, I know they were going through and they were arresting people during the game, checking tickets and arresting, but and even Robert Thomason, if you guys haven't seen the video, these people were going up air ducts. What are we saying with it? These people are nuts. All right? These people are absolutely nuts. And for a game that ended in, extra time, 1-0 game, wasn't even that great, let's be honest with ourselves. But these people were, man, show some respect. I'm going to tell you one thing. Do you think Ross even has any desire to host this at his place again? I mean, they pretty much ruined it for everyone. Let's be honest. They pretty much ruined it for everyone. So I'm going to tell you one thing. There ain't no way Ross is going to sign off on something like this again. No way. And soccer fans just wilding out of control, trashing a stadium over Copa America. It's not, we're not even talking about the World Cup here. Talk about the Copa America. Like, this is ridiculous. And this is what Robert Thomason was referring to. Like, look at this. These guys are actually going in through the air ducts. Die Hard style. What are we dealing with here? These people think it's like Die Hard out here. What is going on? And again, not even the World Cup. We're talking about this for the Copa America. Like, out here acting like John McClane going through these air ducts. I mean, are we serious right now? Are we really having this conversation? Absolutely ridiculous. I couldn't believe what I was seeing yesterday. I really couldn't. Unbelievable. People act like absolute savages. I mean, Canada goes to the semifinals. You wouldn't see us doing this if they went to the finals. This is nuts. And think of how many Canadians would be coming because of how many of them snowbird. So they got like homes down there or whatever. They'd be coming up there. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, unbelievable. Unbelievable stuff, man. So, I had to talk about that because that was crazy. Jason Stamp says, most air ducts aren't clean like in Die Hard, usually gross. Russell says, reason I'm in the HVAC field, that is dumb as hell to do. It's sharp and could collapse. People aren't very bright sometimes. Brother, I think brightness went out the window when these guys started storming and knocking down barriers in front of police. Like, they are lucky police did not pull out and start because I saw police just pushing and some tackling and stuff like that. I saw one police officer grab the guy. The guy tried to shake the police officer off him and shove the police officer. I'm like, wow, you are asking to have your chest filled, with some hollow tips. My Lord. I can't believe this. Absolutely embarrassing. And if you are watching this channel because you're a Dolphin fan and you took part in that, you should be embarrassed for yourself. Now, if you're a Dolphin fan watching this channel and you were there but you didn't take part in that nonsense, then I applaud you for not giving in to the pressure of all your peers around you. Because there were literal children crying and stuff. I'm like, this is ridiculous stuff. Over a Copa America game. Again, it's not even the World Cup. Like, again, if this was the World Cup, I would still condone it. Sorry, I still would not condone it, I'm sorry. But at least I could understand a little bit more. It's the freaking World Cup. We're in the Copa America, people. Holy jeez. This isn't even the Euros. I mean, it's the America's version of the Euros, but it's not as prestigious. So what are we saying here? My God, get a hold of yourselves. Sorry, I had to rant on that because I felt sorry for not only the security and everything, but imagine the people that work at The Rock that got to clean this mess up. And this is the stuff that turns owners off of doing certain events. Again, I say, after seeing this and now the money he has to put back into it, do you think Stephen Ross is going to tell Garfinkel, yeah, make sure you get in the bidding for all these soccer events anymore? Crazy. Anyways, let's get into this. We got a lot to talk about. A lot of Miami Herald-ish type of episode today. But let's start off with ESPN. Because, I mean... oh, my God. So, ESPN, we've been going over their rankings with positions. You know, Javon Holland made top 5, and we're certainly going to talk about that today. Robert Hunt made the honorable mentions after he left. You know, Wilkins was ranked in the top 10 now after being in the honorable mentions last year. You know, Tyreek Hill ranked in the top 10. So let's get into this. And obviously, Terron Armstead was in the honorable mentions, did not have an interior lineman. But so executives, coaches, and scouts ranked the NFL's top 10 QBs for 24. Listen. That's why we're going over these top 10 rankings. How many top 10 rankings do you see reason go over all year? Not many, if any. The only ones I do every year are these. And the reason why? Because executives, coaches, scouts rank the NFL's top 10 at these positions. So that's why. So here we go. At number 1, we already know it's going to be Patrick Mahomes. You know, come on. Number 2, Joe Burrow. Ranked 2 last year. Ranked 2 again this year. What's amazing about this is he is now officially more injury prone than 2. And everyone knows I'm a Burrow fan. So this ain't coming from a malicious place. Everyone knows I'm a Burrow fan. But everyone now knows he's technically more injury prone than Tua Tagovailoa. And they didn't even move off of him. Again, you know why? I'm going to tell you why. It's what I keep talking about with Burrow. The only active quarterback in the AFC who's defeated Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. That matters. So anyways, number 2, which I think after coming off injury, you got a lot to prove to be labeled number 2 right away. Because y'all didn't look that great before he got hurt last year. Number 3, Josh Allen. All right, he was ranked 3 last year, so the top 3 has not changed. Number 4, Lamar Jackson, moving up from number 7. You know, listen, I had him on my top 10 rankings when I just did my top 10. And remember, it was tough. It was tough for me. And the reason why it was tough for me, because you got to take passing into account. The guy didn't even throw for 4,000 yards last year. I mean, let's be real here, right? But it's because he's a weapon. So, number 5, Matt Stafford. Now, if you flip these, it's pretty much, remember, my top 5 when I did my list was Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Stafford, then Jackson. So you flip these 2. So you got Stafford here. All right. Last year he was 10. Number 6. I mean, again, how? Justin Herbert. I mean, explain this to me. And they're going to, since he was drafted number 6 in 2022, Herbert has more passing yards and completions through 4 seasons than any 4-year opening stretch in league history. But people told me when Tua led the league last year in passing yards that those are just hollow numbers. Herbert critics are quick to point out his pedestrian 30-32 career record as a starter. I mean, his team just come off picking, in the top 10, and 2 coaching staffs have been fired under his watch. Lowest ranking, someone ranked him outside of the top 10. Let me meet that person so I can shake their hand. Number 7, wow, CJ Stroud been put in number 7 ahead of the guy who led the league in passing last year. Unbelievable. Number 8, Aaron Rodgers, multiple years removed from his MVP. We haven't seen him play a single full game with the Jets, but somehow he's in the top 10. Unbelievable. Number 9, Jared Goff. I can respect that. I can respect the Goff, even though I might not agree with the ranking. I can respect it at least. Dak, number 10. I mean, what are we talking about here? For the same stuff you hold against Tua, Dak Prescott is susceptible to. Big games. December and January games. So last year's ranked 9th. This year's ranked 10th. Now, honorable mentions. Brock Purdy. Okay, I'm not even going to just be here to defend Tua. This is absolutely ridiculous that Brock Purdy is being left out of the top 10. What does this kid have to do? Back-to-back years of going deep. And he would have went to back-to-back Super Bowls if it wasn't for his injury the year before. Like, even the Brock Purdy disrespect is ridiculous. Look at this. 17-4 as a starter. Man. Wow. Hard to call him top 10 based on the guys ahead of him. Dak Prescott, who can't win in that same conference and has been trying for how many years? Aaron Rodgers, who's old and injured. Justin Herbert, who can't win, who blew a 20-plus point lead in the playoffs. I mean, what are we talking about here? Absolute disrespect. Jordan Love, ranked 12th if you're going by honorable mentions in order, because of an 8-game sample size. Jalen Hurts at 13, and then there's Tua at 14. And they say Tagovailoa did what he needed to in 2023, play a full 17 games, which will inevitably lead to big numbers. A fully healthy Tagovailoa led the NFL in passing yards, took 29 sacks, a solid number for a quarterback with an injury history. I feel like everybody knows what he is. A good player with some limitations, a veteran NFL personnel evaluator said. Check this one out. He's a matchup nightmare some weeks. He's really good when he's in rhythm and he gets the ball out in time. He can be hard to beat when he's throwing with touch and anticipation. The Dolphins appear to value him as an elite quarterback, trimming bloated salary this offseason in part to prepare for Tagovailoa mega extension. Quote, though he doesn't have a big arm and mobility, his short to intermediate stuff is really impressive, and I just think he sees the game really well, an NFC executive said. And what they do around him in Mike McDaniel's offense is brilliant. And then rounding out is 15, Kirk Cousins, and 16 is Trevor Lawrence. And there's a problem with the pay right now. Even coaches, executives, and scouts rank Trevor Lawrence 16th. And how much did he just get paid? Anyways, let's go back to Tua for a sec. I want you to realize something. Leading the NFL in passing yards does not put you in the top 12, apparently, let alone the top 10 in the NFL. So they've got him ranked 14th based on honorable mentions and top 10. I mean, what are we talking about here? You got a personal evaluator calling him a freaking matchup nightmare, saying he's hard to beat. And let's go even deeper with this, because, you know, this bugs me. I'm telling you, this is ridiculous. Okay? This is absolutely ridiculous. Tua Tagovailoa, out of all active starting quarterbacks, only Brock Purdy, who's played 21 games, Patrick Mahomes, who's a 1 of 1, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Aaron Rodgers, and Dak Prescott have higher winning percentages than Tua Tagovailoa right now. Tua Tagovailoa has a 62.7 winning percentage. Dak Prescott is 64. Aaron Rodgers is 66.3, etc., etc. So the 8th best winning percentage out of all starters in the NFL. Okay? So right there, that's a top quarter percentile. All right. Over the last 2 years, Tua Tagovailoa has played 30 games. He is 4th in yards thrown. In passing yards over the last 2 years, Tua has 8,172. That's better than Lawrence. That's better than Herbert. That's better than Jalen Hurts. That's better than Dak Prescott. That's better than Joe Burrow. That's better than Matthew Stafford. That's far better than Lamar Jackson. That's better than Brock Purdy. That's obviously far better than Jordan Love. Tua has 8,172 yards over the last 2 seasons. Justin Herbert has 7,873. Only Josh Allen, Jared Goff, and Patrick Mahomes have thrown for more yards than Tua Tagovailoa over the last 2 years. Tua Tagovailoa has the 5th best, tied for 4th. Him and Jonnu Smith are tied for the 4th best completion percentage over the last 2 years, 67.4%. Better than Patrick Mahomes, better than Kirk Cousins, better than Justin Herbert, better than Jared Goff, better than Trevor Lawrence, better than Jalen Hurts, better than Lamar Jackson, better than Josh Allen, better than Matt Stafford, better than Jordan Love. Only Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, and Joe Burrow have higher completion percentages. Tua Tagovailoa over the last 2 years has the 5th most passing touchdowns in the NFL. 5th most. He has 54 passing touchdowns over the last 2 years. Only Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes have more than him. He has more than Joe Burrow, Kirk Cousins, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts. And I keep bringing up Justin Herbert because remember they said over a 4-year span with Justin Herbert. Well, let's narrow it down to a 2-year span. Tua has him beat in yards, in completion percentage, and touchdowns. When you talk about quarterback rating over the last 2 years, Tua Tagovailoa has the 2nd best quarterback rating over the last 2 years. Only Brock Purdy better. What are we talking about right now? When are they going to put respect on my quarterback's name? Again, 4th most passing yards over the last 2 years. 5th, tied for 4th best completion percentage over the last 2 years. 5th most touchdowns over the last 2 years. 2nd best passer rating over the last 2 years. What is happening right now? Started the Pro Bowl last year. Can't even crack the top 10. And the only reason I'm going over this list is because coaches, executives, and scouts, etc., they're the ones that voted on it. Doesn't make any sense, man. It just doesn't add up. You know, I just don't know what else to say. Unbelievable. Clearly, Tua Tagovailoa needs to be number 1 in every major statistical category to even crack the top 10. He could be number 1 in every single major statistical category, and they still wouldn't call him the best in the NFL. It's crazy. Yeah, the Dolphins were the number 1. I believe they were the number 1 red zone team last year, in terms of scoring. And remember, Tua's first 3 years in the NFL, he was putting up his historical pace type red zone numbers. Crazy. Now on the flip side, Does that article help out the Miami Dolphins at the negotiation table? It is, that's the real question too, right? Like, they're looking at that. They see you as a. So we'll see. We'll see. But, it's, I don't know. It's kind of crazy that he's, absolutely disgusting. Absolutely. In 2021, Tua had the highest completion percentage in the red zone. It was like 66.1%. I know for his first 3 years, he was on a historical pace in the red zone, heading into the red zone. So, I mean, we'll see. But Tua Tagovailoa, man, I tell you, it's just the disrespect continues. And maybe it is the logo. Listen, I say this all the time. When I started off, when I started off in this community, I would always hear the conspiracy theories about, everyone's biased against us because we're in Miami, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. The media's biased against us is because we're Dolphins. Listen, y'all weren't lying. I used to say you guys were absolutely you were over exaggerating. I will no longer say that. I will no longer say that. You guys were 110% correct. There's clearly media bias against the Miami Dolphins. Clearly, there's media bias against the Miami Dolphins. It just is what it is. I don't know what else to say. Is what it is at this point, right? So, whatever. So there you go. Tua Tagovailoa. Little piece for you guys there. I had to get that rant. I had to get that rant going. Sorry. Unbelievable. All right. So Barry Jackson back on the beat. And here we go. Tyreek Hill explains what Dolphins really needed, his trolling and trade philosophy. 6-pack of Dolphins notes on a Monday. When Tyreek Hill visited ESPN's sprawling Connecticut headquarters last week, he spoke about Tua Tagovailoa's contract situation and to an extent his own, but he also made a good point regarding one shortcoming in the Miami Dolphins offense that has seemingly been addressed. Offensively, we were missing a few key pieces, he told Laura Rutledge on NFL Live. For us, things that we can get better at that sticks out to me is third down situations. Adding a guy like Odell Beckham, being able to beat one-on-one coverage, going against the third corner is going to be a huge advantage for our offense. No other guy I feel like can step into that role and take ownership of it like Odell would be able to. The Dolphins were 12th in third down conversion percentage last season at 40.2. Over the past 2 seasons, when Hill and Waddle were blanketed either by top cornerbacks, double coverage, or 2 high safety looks, Tua Tagovailoa often couldn't find answers elsewhere. Though Cedric Wilson and Braxton Berrios had their moments, the receivers and tight ends couldn't consistently create, enough separation, and drives often stalled as a result. The additions of Beckham and tight end Jonnu Smith should improve that situation. Here's some data and advanced metrics to chew on. Last season, of Beckham's 35 receptions for Baltimore, 27 of them were for first downs. That's 77.1%. By contrast, the players who primarily served as Miami Dolphins number 3 and number 4 receivers last season, being Cedric Wilson Jr. and Braxton Berrios, saw only 59.1% of their receptions go for first downs. Wow. In Smith, the Dolphins signed the tight end who had the NFL's fourth best average separation from the nearest defender last season per Next Gen Stats. Smith averaged 3.9 yards per separation per route run. By comparison, tight end Mike Gesicki was at 3.1 in 2022, his only year in Mike McDaniel's offense, almost a full yard. Beckham averaged 2.7 yards of separation last season, compared with 3.4 for Waddle and 3.3 for Hill. In terms of getting open, ESPN Analytics ranked Hill 4th, Waddle 24th, and Beckham 34th last season. No other Dolphin receiver was in the top 90. ESPN's overall analytics of their play last season ranked Beckham 27th, Barrios 75th, and Wilson 95th. Barrios remains on the Dolphins. Wilson now plays for New Orleans. In yards per reception, Beckham was 8th in the league at 16.1. Among Dolphins receivers last season, Hill was at 15.1 and Waddle was at 14.1, albeit with far more receptions than Beckham 35. While Wilson was at 13.5, River Craycraft 13.4, Barrios 8.8, and good old Chase Claypool at 6.5. And Pro Football Reference had a statistic called successful receptions, describes it as this way: a successful reception gains at least 40% of the yards required on first down, 60% on second down, and 100% on third or fourth. Waddle was at 58.7%, Hill was at 57.9%, and Beckham was at 50% compared to 47.4% for Cedric Wilson Jr. last season. Smith was at 51.4%, where Gesicki in his final season here in Miami was at about 48.1%. Here's another area where Smith really helps. He led all NFL tight ends in average yards after the catch per reception over the past 3 seasons, including 7.3 last season. Conversely, Miami's tight ends averaged 3.0 in yak last season, which was worst in the league. I believe we had an A+ season, Hill said. The reason being is because General Manager Chris Grier and our head coach Mike McDaniel went into the offseason, said we're going to correct a lot of things. The Dolphins had the NFL's third best percentage in converting red zone forays into touchdown at 65.2%, behind only the 49ers and the Lions. In the passing game, there is still work to be done in that area. Hill caught 7 of 15 red zone targets last season with 3 touchdowns. Waddle caught 2 of 6 with both going for touchdowns. Beckham in Baltimore caught 2 of 7 for 1 touchdown. As for Smith in the red zone, he has thrown 38 passes he has been thrown 38 passes during his past 4 seasons and caught 23 of them with 10 for touchdowns. While he'll clearly prefer a new contract with a pay raise, he made clear on ESPN that he's not going to complain if he's not given one, and he's certainly not going to ask for a trade, he said. I told my agent, don't get me traded this time, Hill said, a reference to 2022 when he authorized Drew Rosenhaus to explore trades with Kansas City when they wouldn't give him a lucrative new deal. I don't want to leave Miami, so whatever it takes, I'm very content where I am right now. I love the team, I love the head coach, I love the organization, the way I'm able to take my family everywhere, and the guy I want to be my own person. I don't want to leave. I'm very content. If they decide to keep me where I am contractually, I'm content. If they decide, Reek, we're going to give you a pay raise, there you go, man. I know it's going to happen. All I've got to do is stay the course, focus on winning games, helping this organization in January and February. I think everything is going to pay off. Hill has 238 receptions for 3,509 yards, 20 touchdowns the past 2 seasons for the Dolphins. Asked by Rutledge about playing in Mike McDaniel's offense, Hill said, it's a lot of fun to watch, but being a part of it is not like the funnest. When you watch our offense, there's always a fast guy in motion, and that fast guy is typically myself. I'm so tired. I'm running a route before the play starts. You running me in motion to the left, and then I've got to run 17 yards. It's fun, though. Once you understand his mindset and whole philosophy, it's absolutely fun. We know every week you have to be prepared to add a new play. He's going to bring something from another team, but he's going to spin it in his way to make it the Miami Dolphin way. That's the fun part about it, because you're always learning in the system. What about Hill last week included Baker Mayfield in his top 5 NFL quarterbacks with Tagovailoa, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Dak. I like trolling and making people mad, he said of his list overall. I knew all the Bills fans would say, Josh Allen knows you. That's the fun part of it, riling people up. We all know Patrick and Tua are the top 2 quarterbacks in the NFL. You got Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, a lot of great guys. People got to understand who I am as a person. I'm a troll. I started a whole uproar and then I left. Pro Football Network ranked 5 Dolphins in their list of 100 players. Hill was 7th, Ramsey was 36th, Tagovailoa 66th, Waddle 77th, and Javon Holland 79th. Shout out to Taryn for going out here and gifting a membership to Phenomenal Pod. Appreciate you supporting the channel, especially because your boy got the notification first thing this morning that my training camp preview video was demonetized. So there you go. And we'll be, if you haven't had a chance to check out that video, go check that video. A lot of work went into that video. There's all 22 in that video. Because I gave you prospect profiles of Patrick Paul, Jalen Wright, Malik Washington. It's a really informative video. We do it every year. I'll be doing this Friday. I'll be doing the defense. And I will also have prospect profiles of Chop Robinson and Mo Kamara. I may or may not do Patrick McMorris as well. Shout out to Sean Heller for donating 5 Phinside the NFL memberships. Dad Dean, Ryan AP, Paulie King 305, John West, and Justin, all recipients of those memberships. Well over 200 of you in the room. Do me the favor and smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. Rookies report this week. Can't wait, man. Interesting article though. Bleacher Report. They're out here trying to predict busts for every NFL's team, biggest bust of the 2024 NFL season. And they think Jonnu Smith might be a bust for the Miami Dolphins. And their reasoning, just because the Dolphins haven't prioritized a tight end in Mike McDaniel's tenure does not mean it won't happen with Jonnu Smith. Also, you'll safely find me with the I believe it when I see it crowd. Smith is plenty talented, but recent history says he won't have lots of opportunities. What recent history are we talking about here? Like what recent history are we discussing here? What's the recent history? I know you're not talking about the Miami Dolphins and throwing the football. There's just no way you can be, right? Here's the thing. I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but Tua Tagovailoa threw the ball 560 times last year. Between Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, there's still like another 390 targets to go around. In fact, I'll do you one better. Durham Smythe had the 3rd most targets on the team. And he really didn't start getting targeted till, halfway through the last half of the season. The last quarter of the season, when last 4 to 6 games is when he started getting used more. So I don't know what they're talking about. There's going to be plenty of opportunities for a guy like Jonnu Smith in this offense. That's absolutely ridiculous. Now, is he going to make the most of them? I don't know, but I think he will. Shout out to Glenn, the engineer and consultant, for the $20 donation. I appreciate you, Glenn. That means a lot. Again, like I mentioned, just had the video demonetized, so I appreciate that for supporting the channel. He says, keep up the outstanding work and keeping us informed. It's going to be a great year for the Dolphins. I agree, Glenn. I got a feeling, Glenn, that this year, you know what we do? We knock down that narrative about not being able to win in January. I think we win a playoff game this year, at least. So I like the positivity, Glenn. In a world that's so negative, it's a breath of fresh air. It's a breath of fresh air to share in the positivity with people like you. So thank you, Glenn. I appreciate you. Now, Omar Kelly made a great point, and we'll get into that in a sec. Tony Rizzi said, everything he said is why I get my Fins news here. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate you, good sir. Tony, longtime supporter of the channel. Appreciate you, my friend. And that's Tony's 20th super chat ever on a live stream. So thank you for constantly supporting. Thank you all for supporting. Listen, if you can't donate, if your pockets are tight, just do me the favor. Smash the like button. That's all I need from you. Smash the like button. If you're new, subscribe. Hey, if you want to become a Patreon, patreon.com/Phinside The NFL. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. If you want to become a channel member, both have access to inside information. So I want to thank all of y'all for supporting the channel the way you guys do. Thank you so much. It means the world to me. So Omar Kelly made a really good point, and I'm looking at you, Channing Tindall, and all of you. All right. Dolphins can't afford another disappointing rookie class. There's a good chance that some undrafted rookie reporting to the start of training camp on Tuesday will be as much, if not more, of a significant contributor than any of the Miami Dolphins 7 draft picks in 2024 based on this franchise's recent history. That was the case in 2019 when Preston Williams and Nick Needham outshined all but Christian Wilkins and the Brian Flores' first rookie class. It was the case when Kader Kohu established himself as a rookie starting cornerback in a year where all 4 of those 2022 draftees sparingly played. And last season, despite plenty of opportunities and needs for players to step up at their positions, Devon Achane and Julian Hill were the only rookies to contribute. Achane, a third-round pick from Texas A&M, set an NFL record for yards per attempt in a season as he rushed for 800 yards and scored 11 touchdowns on 103 attempts. During last year's training camp, Hill outperformed a drafted tight end named Elijah Higgins, who latched on to Arizona after being released by Miami in August and caught 14 passes for 163 yards and 1 touchdown for the Cardinals. Hill handled the second most snaps at his position, shining as a blocker while contributing 48 receiving yards on 6 receptions. In the meantime, Cam Smith, a second-round pick from South Carolina, barely sniffed the field because of what coaches labeled a maturity issue. Higgins got released, and offensive tackle Ryan Hayes didn't survive training camp and eventually found his way back to the practice squad after a brief stint with the Indianapolis Colts. In fairness to general manager Chris Grier, his past 3 draft classes have been limited by the trades that have produced Tyreek Hill, Liam Eichenberg, Bradley Chubb, a couple of other players such as Adam Shaheen and Bernardrick McKinney, who aren't really worth mentioning. And Miami's penalty for tampering with Sean Payton and Tom Brady in the 2022 offseason when the franchise was trying to lure the recently retired Saints coach and Brady, who was pondering retirement after 2 seasons in Tampa Bay, to Miami. Grier and his staff have basically worked without a full arsenal of draft picks for 3 straight seasons. However, let's not pretend that having undrafted players outperform talent the team used a draft pick to acquire is a good thing. Finding hidden gems should be praised, but drafting buds, which the Dolphins have indeed done far too often, late and early, should be criticized because it's a waste of resources and roster space. If inside linebacker Channing Tindall, a third-round selection in 2022, developed into the player Miami thought he was coming out of Georgia, they wouldn't need to sign Jordan Brooks to a lucrative 3-year, $26 million contract to replace Jerome Baker, who was purged this offseason as part of Miami's salary cap cleanse to fix the team's finances. If Izakama, a 4th-round pick in 2022, blossomed instead of the tease the coaches the past few years, Odell Beckham Jr. wouldn't have been added this offseason to serve as Miami's number 3. If Smith lived up to his pedigree as a 2023 second-round selection, Eli Apple wouldn't need to have been signed to start a season, and Kendall Fuller would be on another team and not the front-runner to start opposite Jalen Ramsey after Miami released former Pro Bowl Xavier Howard to clear up cap space this offseason. Good franchises, healthy franchises, draft and develop talent consistently. They keep bullets in the chamber, and they don't need a treasure chest of early draft picks or numerous trades for superstars to build a winning team. That is why the Dolphins have to start doing more than banking on trades or top picks in every draft class, because drafting and developing young talent is the key to sustained success in the NFL. The tide has to turn, and it needs to start with this year's draft edge rushers, Chop Robinson and Mohamed Kamara, whom Miami will likely call on to start, if not serve as rotational players, until Chubb and Phillips return from the season-ending injuries they suffered late last year. Both will be thrown into prominent roles early this camp, and will likely learn if we will likely learn if the puppies bite. That's a Bill Parcells-ism, which stems from the former Dolphins executive's belief that rookies who make impact plays in their first season are possible foundation pieces, if not superstars. The hope is that Jalen Wright in his 4.38 40 time will help replicate Achane's success, and that he will find a role in Miami's crowded backfield or on special teams. Mike McDaniel can always find use for players who run sub 4.4 40 times, and the Dolphins did trade away a 2025 third-round pick to put themselves in a position to select the former Tennessee standout who rushed for 2,297 yards and averaged 6.2 yards per carry in his 3 seasons with the Volunteers in the 4th round. But that's not as critical as Patrick Paul, a towering offensive tackle whom the Dolphins selected 55th overall after ignoring the team's glaring need for offensive guard help, soaking up all of Teron Armstead's teachings and developing into the perfect left tackle understudy in the training camp and exhibition exhibition snaps he will inherit because of Armstead's expected absence from July and August's practices and games. Anything else for the Dolphins get from the rest of the 2024 class, which includes former Virginia receiver Malik Washington, former USC receiver Tajay Washington, California safety Patrick McMorris, and the 12 undrafted rookies added to the training camp roster will be gravy if Robinson and Kamara blossom into reliable contributors. Paul proves he's Armstead's successor, and Wright becomes another weapon in McDaniel's arsenal. What the Dolphins can't afford is another season where the draftees sit on the sidelines, sparingly contributing, while Grier had to sign veterans and make trades to address roster voids. And listen, he's right. I'll be the first to tell you he's right. You need contributions. I mean, look at how the Chiefs have been able to maintain success. Trent McDuffie. Look at how young, Leo Chanel and Nick Bolton as the starting linebackers. And look at how good that young defense performed for them last season during the regular season all the way to the playoffs. They had one of the youngest defenses in the NFL, but they had a mastermind defensive coordinator. They hit on a lot of the picks, and look at what it put together. They surrounded guys like Chris Jones' big contract and such with young talent, and look at how it worked. Yes, they lost some of that young talent this offseason, but that's what happens when you guys got guys on first-time deals and you win. I mean, go back to the 2020 draft. Look at how far out they're trying to get ahead of having to replace Eric Fisher and the tackle situation when they drafted Lucas Niang. They drafted Lucas Niang like a year or two before, they were going to be having switches at both tackle spots to try and figure it out. Good teams get not only out ahead of position transitional periods with young talent, but they also hit on the picks. He's right. If Channing Tindall contributed and turned into the guy we thought he would be, would we be paying Jordan Brooks? Now, OBJ is a different story. I think they'd still be bolstering the roster. Tight end. Look at all the shots they've taken from Tanner Connor to Elijah Higgins, like you mentioned, to Julian Hill. They had to go get Jonnu because they haven't been able to hit. Cam Smith didn't get enough opportunities. Didn't put enough on film for Anthony Weaver and them to come in and say, okay, we trust him playing opposite of Ramsey. So they had to go get Fuller. So he's right, 110%. You can't afford to have all these guys not contribute. And I think that's one of the reasons why you keep seeing them push Liam Eichenberg to the front of the guard battle. Because they are so desperate to get something out of that, considering the capital they gave up and where they drafted him. That's how I see it. Lo-Fi says, Paul being able to start next year will be a big need next year and spot we can't afford to spend big money on. I agree 110%. You got to hit on that Patrick Paul pick. Butch Barry and Frank Smith and Mike McDaniel, they need to be in their bag and they need to utilize that kid to his full potential. 110%. I agree with you. You won't hear any pushback from me on that one. That's for sure. Guys, smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. Well over 200 of you in the room on YouTube. Thank y'all for coming in on this Monday and spending some of it with me. Rookies report to camp tomorrow, but I will be dropping an episode in the morning around 9 a.m. Me and Tyler Dunn. I implore you, go watch. Go watch the episode tomorrow. It's going to be awesome. But also, go read his article on golongtd.com. David Long Jr. and the Beast Within. Your jaw will be on the floor. It's free. Tyler Dunn has also released that Tua Time article a couple years ago. He's the one who got the Sean McDermott news out there about Al-Qaeda. So he does great work. He had that Lynn Bowden piece a couple years ago. So go support good journalists who deserve it. We'll have him on tomorrow. We talk about Tua's contract situation because remember, he's kind of plugged into Tua's camp because of, his time covering Tua. So we talk about that situation. We talk a whole lot about David Long Jr., talk about Vic Fangio and Anthony Weaver because David Long made it clear that this defense are happy that Vic Fangio are gone. So make sure you check it out. Shout out to Robert Thomason for putting it in the chat. I'll even, go check out that article. Y'all will like it. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new on the way out. I appreciate all you for coming through. Rookies report tomorrow. Football's coming back, baby. And I'll be live this week with Neil, Richmond Webb, etc. And finalizing with Jordan Schultz. So a lot of content coming your way. All right. Fins up. I'll see you on the next one. And as always, have a fantastic evening. Love all y'all.